The world will test you. It will throw storms at your peace, lies at your truth, failure at your plans. It will try to bend you, break you, bury you under the weight of fear, doubt, and mediocrity. But there is one thing the world cannot crush: an unbreakable mind. A mind that's been forged, not formed. Built, not borrowed. Sharpened in silence, disciplined in darkness, and risen in defiance. Because the ones who rise, the ones who lead, the ones who leave their mark on the earth, they are not made of talent alone. They are made of mental steel, of grit that doesn't melt in the heat, of vision that doesn't blur in the chaos, of belief that doesn't collapse in the face of ridicule. They have mastered the one domain that controls all others, the battlefield of the mind. And you were not born fragile. You were not built for surrender. You were made to fight, to adapt, to evolve beyond what you thought possible. But somewhere along the way, the world convinced you to shrink, to play safe, to play small, to confuse comfort with peace, ease with success, and pleasure with purpose. But hear this now. Comfort is not your friend. It is the velvet prison that keeps your potential asleep. It whispers lies in a sweet tone. You're doing enough. You've earned a break. Maybe this is all there is. But inside you, something burns, something aches. That is not frustration. That is your greatness trying to wake you up. The unbreakable mind begins when you stop running from that fire and start building from it. You look at your excuses and call them out. You look at your distractions and shut them off. You look at your self-doubt and stare it in the face until it breaks before you do. Every giant in history has faced what you're facing now. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times in darkness before the world saw his light. Abraham Lincoln lost elections, buried loved ones, suffered breakdowns. But he never broke. Why? Because their minds were not chained to their conditions. They were anchored in something deeper: resolve. That is the currency of the unbreakable. Not intelligence, not privilege, not luck, resolve. The decision that no matter what comes, I will not fold. I will not quit. I will not lower my standards just because the road is steep. Because I know that steel is only formed in fire, diamonds are only made under pressure, and legends are only born in adversity. This is not about motivation. This is about mastery. This is not about hype. This is about hunger. The kind of hunger that doesn't need applause, doesn't need approval, doesn't need a cheering crowd. The unbreakable mind works in silence, trains in silence, builds in silence. And when it speaks, the world listens. You must understand, your mind is your command center. Your thoughts shape your emotions. Your emotions drive your actions. Your actions define your outcomes. If your mind is weak, your life will follow. But if your mind is forged in discipline, devotion, and direction, nothing can stop you. You cannot afford to live distracted. You cannot afford to let the opinions of the weak dictate the decisions of the strong. You cannot afford to waste your life avoiding pain, because pain is not your enemy. It is your teacher. An unbreakable mind doesn't run from pressure. It thrives in it. Because pressure is proof that something is being created. A new level, a new standard, a new version of you, but you must stop waiting for the right time. There is no perfect moment. There is only now. Now to take the first step. Now to fight the battle between who you are and who you could be. Now to silence the voice that says, it's too late. You're not enough. Stay where it's safe. Safe is a cage, and you weren't made to live in a cage. You were made to build something timeless, to become someone dangerous, not in violence, but in vision. Someone so locked in, so grounded, so mentally fortified that no betrayal, no failure, no storm can derail you. Think of the greats: Carnegie, Mandela, Roosevelt, King. Their bodies endured chaos. Their reputations were tested. Their names were mocked. But their minds, that's what made history. That's what made movements. Because they never gave power to circumstance. They owned their response. They didn't let the storm change their course. They changed inside the storm. And so must you. If you want to be unbreakable, you must learn to suffer with purpose, to fall with grace, to rise with fire. Because resilience is not the absence of pain, it's the decision to stand up anyway. It's the discipline to keep going when the applause is gone, when the money isn't there yet, when no one's watching. That's when warriors are made. And let me be clear, you are a warrior. Not because you've never been broken, but because you've refused to stay broken. You've seen pain, and you're still here. You've tasted failure, and you're still reaching. You've been doubted, and you're still dreaming. That is strength. Now it's time to weaponize that strength. Not for ego, but for mission. Not to dominate others, but to dominate the limitations in your own mind. Because you are the enemy until you become the weapon. And when you do, when your mind becomes sharper than the chaos, stronger than the noise, clearer than the confusion, you become a force that cannot be stopped. Not by fear, not by failure, not by the smallness of others. You rise, not because it's easy, but because that's who you are now. A vow to never again give your power to doubt, to fear, to fleeting opinions. You rise because you've seen what average gives you, and it's not enough. You've tasted what comfort feeds you, and it left you starving. You've danced with distractions, and they almost stole your destiny. But no more. This is the moment your mind graduates, not to a smarter version of yourself, but to a stronger one. One that doesn't chase motivation but manufactures it. One that doesn't beg for clarity but creates it. One that doesn't react to the world but rebuilds it from the inside out. You stop negotiating with your lesser self. You stop giving airtime to the voice that says, "Just take it easy today." Because that voice is a liar. It doesn't want your peace. It wants your potential. It doesn't want your rest. It wants your resignation. You silence that voice by choosing purpose over pleasure, vision over validation, discipline over delay. And what happens when you make that choice? Not once, but daily. Your mind becomes a fortress, not hard and cold, but focused and unshakable. Not arrogant, but anchored. Not loud, but lethal. You begin to see the world differently. Where others see obstacles, you see opportunities for refinement. Where others complain about pressure, you embrace it as a sculptor of character. Where others break, you build. Because you've trained your mind to stop flinching when life hits hard. You've trained it to respond with intention, not emotion. To rise with resolve, not react in retreat. This is not suppression, this is supremacy over the self. Not over others, but over the chaos within. The greatest war you'll ever fight is not against an opponent. It's against the version of you that's addicted to comfort. The version of you that looks at the mountain and wants the view, but not the climb. But you are not here for easy. You are not here for halfway. You are here to become unshakable, to think clearly in crisis, to stand tall when the ground is trembling, to walk forward when your knees are shaking. Your heart is broken. Your energy is drained. That is power. That is command. That is legacy. Because no one builds a legacy by being emotionally fragile. No one inspires nations by chasing temporary highs. No one becomes unforgettable by thinking like everyone else. You must rise above the noise, above the chaos, above the voice that says, "You can't," because that voice is loud, but you are louder. And when your mind becomes louder than your fears, your future answers. When your mind becomes stronger than your setbacks, your purpose ignites. When your mind becomes bigger than your excuses, your life expands. So I ask you, what would your life look like if your mind was unbreakable? If you trained it like a soldier, fed it like a fire, protected it like a treasure? What if you guarded your attention like your destiny depended on it? Because it does? What if you treated every thought like a seed, planting only the ones that grow purpose, clarity, and conviction? What if you refused, flat out refused, to allow mediocrity a seat at your table? Because when your mind is unbreakable, your circumstances don't matter. The bank account doesn't define you. The opinions don't shake you. The odds don't faze you. Because you are not negotiating with reality, you are creating it. You are not at the mercy of life. You are the architect of it. And every great architect knows the structure can only rise as high as the foundation is deep. Your mind is that foundation. Build it deep. Build it deliberate. Build it disciplined. Because at the end of the day, when the lights go out and no one's watching, it's not your resume that will speak, not your possessions, not your trophies, but your mind. Did it hold the line? Did it fight for the higher path? Did it stay grounded in truth while everything else fell apart? Did it whisper, "Keep going," when your body screamed, "Stop"? That is the mind that earns freedom. That is the mind that builds empires. That is the mind that leaves the world better than it found it. Not because it was flawless, but because it refused to break. So you want the power of an unbreakable mind? Then earn it. Earn it in your habits. Earn it in your early mornings. Earn it in your silence. Earn it in your self-respect. Earn it in your work, your word, your walk. Because nothing about an unbreakable mind is accidental. It is chosen. Every day, every thought. Every time the world tells you no, and you rise anyway. And when you do, the world will not hand you success. It will not roll out the red carpet. But it will move out of your way. Because nothing can stop a mind that has decided, "I will rise, I will build, I will lead, I will not break. I was made for more." And when you walk like that, think like that, live like that, you don't just survive the fire, you become it.